phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
What do YouTube? B Kelly back again with another banger video, and in today's video, y'all, I'm going to talk about what happened to the past 10 #1 ranked safeties from 2011 to 2020, and for this video, I'm going to be using the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. Now let's get into the video. In the 2011 recruiting class, the #1 safety in the nation was Karlos Williams, who was a 5-star recruit and ranked as the #4 player in the nation, and he would end up going to Florida State. Karlos Williams at Florida State would not be a defensive player all 4 years of his college football career. In his first 2 years, he did play on the defensive side of the ball, but after those 2 seasons, he would switch to running back. Now, as a defensive player, he had 47 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 interception as a backup safety in 2 seasons. Now, as a running back, he was never the main running back, but he did win a national championship as a backup running back in 2013, and he was really solid as a guy who wasn't seen as a main back, and he was really consistent as well. In 2 seasons as a running back, he rushed for 1,419 yards, averaging a very impressive 6 yards per carry and 22 total touchdowns on the ground. In the 2015 NFL Draft, he was taken in the 5th round by the Buffalo Bills. Williams would exceed all expectations in his rookie season in Buffalo, as he was a backup running back and only started in 3 of the 11 games he played in. He rushed for 517 yards, 7 touchdowns, and averaged 5.6 yards per carry. Although things did look very bright for Karlos Williams, things would come crashing down for him in Buffalo as he showed up the next season to training camp out of shape and overweight, and was suspended 4 games for violating the NFL substance abuse policy, then was ultimately released by the Bills. He would sign with the Steelers practice squad, but after violating the substance abuse policy of the NFL for the 2nd time, he would be released. He would then violate the substance abuse policy for the NFL for a 3rd time, and currently right now he's with the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL. In the 2012 recruiting class, the #1 safety in the nation was Shag Thompson, who ranked as the #4 player in the nation, and he would go on to play for Washington. Shag Thompson would spend 3 seasons at Washington, and he balled out in every season no matter where he lined up on the defensive side of the ball, safety or linebacker. The guy was a beast. In 3 seasons, he had 232 total tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 5 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. He balled out so much in his college career, he would forgo his final year of college eligibility and declare his name early for the 2015 NFL Draft, where he was taken in the 1st round, 25th overall pick by the Carolina Panthers. Shag Thompson has played 6 years in the NFL so far, all with the Carolina Panthers. And although he has not made a Pro Bowl yet, do not let that distract you from the fact that Shag Thompson is a very consistent and good linebacker. In 6 seasons so far, he has 470 total tackles, 9.5 sacks, 1 touchdown, 4 forced fumbles, and a total of 1 interception. Coming out of the 2013 recruiting class, the #1 safety in the nation was Sula Cravens, who was the #5 player in the nation. He would end up going to USC. Right when he got to USC, he was an immediate impact player for the Trojans, and he would be that way for their defense from freshman all the way to junior year, his final year of college football. In 3 seasons at USC, he had 207 total tackles, 34.5 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, 9 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. After a very impressive career at USC, he would forgo his final year of college eligibility and declare his name for the 2016 NFL Draft, where he was taken in the 2nd round by the Washington football team. Cravens had a very, very interesting NFL career, to say the least. In his rookie season, he was very promising with the football team, as he started in 3 of the 11 games he played in. He had 34 total tackles, 1 sack, and even an interception, was projected to be the starting safety going into the 2017 season, but he would actually retire, then come back to the team and just miss the entire 2017 season. Then he was dealt to Denver, where he suffered a lot of injury issues and only played in 5 games, where he had 18 total tackles and a fumble recovery, and he was released before the 2019 NFL season and has not played in the NFL since. In the 2014 recruiting class, the #1 safety in the nation goes by the name of Quin Blanding, and he ranked as the #6 player in the nation. He would end up going to Virginia. Blanding would spend 4 seasons at Virginia, where he was a very impactful player on the defensive side of the ball, all 4 seasons. I mean, this guy was a complete baller. He had 492 total tackles in his career, 9 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 10 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 forced fumble. Now, although he was a baller at Virginia, seems like he was kind of forgotten about, as in the 2018 NFL Draft, he went undrafted. Since 2018 to 2020, Blanding would spend time on the practice squads of the football team and the Panthers, but since September 5th, 2020, Blanding has not played or been on a practice squad of a single NFL team. In the 2015 class, the number 1 safety was Derwin James, who ranked as the 5th best player in the nation and would end up going to Florida State. Derwin James would spend 3 seasons at Florida State, but really only played in 2 seasons. As a true sophomore in 2016, he actually missed most of the season due to injury, so he really only played 2 full seasons of college football. But in his 3-year career, he had 186 total tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 forced fumbles. He would forgo his final year of college eligibility and declare his name for the 2018 NFL Draft, where he was taken in the first round, 17th overall, by the Los Angeles Chargers. James would have an amazing rookie season in 2018 with the Chargers. He made a Pro Bowl and an All-Pro team, and in 16 games played, he had 105 total tackles, 3.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions. In 2019, unfortunately, he would miss most of the season due to injury, and he would only play in 5 games, where he had 34 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 0 interceptions. He would miss the entire 2020 season with injury. In the 2016 recruiting class, the number 1 safety in the nation was Brandon Jones, who ranked as the 40th best player in the nation and a 4-star recruit, and he would end up going to Texas. Brandon Jones would spend 4 seasons at Texas, where he was a 3-year starter in his last 3 seasons, and he had 232 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 3 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, and 2 forced fumbles in his career. He would end up going in the 3rd round in the 2020 NFL Draft, and he was selected by the Miami Dolphins. In his rookie campaign in the 2020 NFL season, he was primarily a backup for the Miami Dolphins, but he still had a pretty solid season, where he had 62 total tackles, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble. In the 2017 class, the number 1 safety in the nation was Jacoby Stevens. He ranked as a 5-star recruit and the 18th best player nationally, and he would end up going to LSU. Jacoby Stevens wouldn't exactly have the fastest start to his LSU football career. In his first 2 seasons, he was a backup, but once he got to be an upperclassman in 2019 to 2020, he really started to play a lot and became a big impact for the Tigers on the defensive side of the ball. In his 4-year career, he had 190 total tackles, 21.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. He also won the national championship in 2019, and he is currently in the NFL Draft for 2021 in the player pool. In the 2018 recruiting class, the number 1 safety in the nation was Caden Sterns, who ranked as the 19th best player nationally, and he would end up going to Texas. Caden Sterns has spent 3 seasons as a Longhorn so far, and he had a pretty impressive true freshman season in 2018, where he had 62 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 4 interceptions. That's pretty impressive for a guy who's starting his first year on the collegiate level. Now, in 2019 and 2020, he would have his moments, but he would ultimately suffer some injury issues here and there, only playing in 9 games in 2019 and 7 in 2020. But he's still been a pretty consistent player, but has dealt with some injury issues so far at Texas. His career numbers are 173 total tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 5 interceptions in 3 seasons. In the 2019 recruiting class, the number 1 safety in the nation was Dax Hill, who ranked as the 14th best player nationally, and he would end up going to Michigan. As a freshman with Michigan in the 2019 college football season, he would primarily be in a rotational role in the DB system for Michigan. Now, in this season, he'd have a solid year where he had 36 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 interception. In 2020, on a shortened season where he only played in 6 games, he had a pretty good season where he had 44 total tackles, 1 interception, and that's really about it, but that's still pretty solid for only 6 games. And you can definitely expect to hear his name a lot in the 2021 college football season. And our last player today, coming out of the 2020 recruiting class, is Jaylon Jones, who was the #1 safety in this class and ranked as the 21st best player nationally, and he would end up going to Texas A&M. In Jones's true freshman campaign in the 2020 college football season with the Aggies, he would rack up 30 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 interception. Well, guys, if you guys have made it this far in the video, remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. B. Kelly out.